So I haven't been able to say this in a while, and I kind of missed it, but welcome back to Dice at Dusk. And tonight, I am going to be going over a 1 to 4 player game by CMON Games called God of War, the card game. So it's been a while. I haven't made a video in probably 4, maybe even more years. I've uploaded a few little things here or there, but nothing like what I'm about to do. I may be a little bit rusty, so bear with me. But a lot of things have happened since I stopped. I got a new job. I have a 3-year-old now that pretty much takes up most of the time. We bought a house, we moved. As you can see, if you remember past videos, I was in a decently painted, nice room, nice backdrop, that same shelf actually that hasn't left me, that's traveled with us. But this is an unfinished business, an unfinished basement that hopefully I finish soon. Maybe you guys will be along on that little journey of finishing my basement. I wouldn't hold my breath, or I wouldn't want you to hold your breath, because my wife's been asking me to finish it for a while, and it's still like this. So give me a little bit of time. Maybe you guys will push me to finish it faster. But anyway, so last week, the game God of War Ragnarok came out for PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4, whichever one you play. And I blasted through the storyline, and it just left me wanting more God of War, just like when God of War, the 2018 version, came out. It just left me wanting more God of War. The end of this one left me wanting more, even more. It was an outstanding game. I knew that this game came out, this God of War, the card game, came out a few years ago, and I just never played it. So I jumped online, I picked up a copy, and I've been playing it for about a week. And depending on how you play it, and either way you play it, it's a pretty good game. Let me just say one thing. This is not meant to be a how to play. It's just going to be strictly me talking about the game and how much I like it. I'll go over bits and pieces of how it's played, but you can find how to play videos somewhere else. But this is, again, one of my favorite video game franchises of all time. I've played everything from the original to mobile games to the newest one, Ragnarok. And in this game, depending, again, if you're playing solo or with a group of friends, it's 1 to 4 players. You would either, solo, you're going to play as Kratos, and you're going to have Mimir and Atreus, or Loki, if you played the games. You're going to have them as your sidekicks, and they'll give you special abilities that you'll be able to use throughout the game. For a multiplayer game with 2, 3, 4 people, you can still play with those people. So you would pick one character. So you can play as Kratos, Mimir. Mimir's a weird case. Mimir and Brock and Sindri are kind of weird, but you can play with Brock and Sindri. You can play with Freya, Kratos, Loki, or Atreus, and Mimir. Like I said, Mimir's kind of weird, where you're not really controlling Mimir. You're more of a supporting character, and you're kind of attached to you can be attached to anybody. You don't have to just be attached to Kratos, but you're more of a supporting act, just like Mimir was in the video game. But you are always with somebody. Sindri, Brock, you play both of them. They're both on their own card. They have 2 different standees, but you're playing them together. And then Freya, Atreus, and Kratos, They have their own abilities, and you play them kind of like they're their own character, which they all are. Um, so you're going to be going through this, I keep wanting to say dungeon, it's not a dungeon, but you're going to go through these different quests, and you're going to start with, you start with one, obviously, you always start with one, but you're going to start with that quest, and you're going to beat it, and then you're going to go on to a next tier. The way you have it set up, and I'll show a picture, is like an inverted pyramid, where you'll pick a card, or you'll start with the first card. After you beat that quest, you'll then pick one of the next two cards, and then you go on that quest, and then finally you get to the boss, which for this game, it could be any one of the bosses that you fought in the 2018 version of God of War. It's nothing to do with the newer one, other than the characters that you're playing. But the artwork is outstanding. Oh, I probably should have said this. It is a deck builder, where you will be using cards, much like any other deck builder, and you're going to be using them to do your attacks and your blocks on these creatures, or things in the environment. You can interact with things. You can find different runes that can open up chests in the game, that will could give you more cards for your hand. Your hand limit is 7, but that can be increased or decreased depending on cards that you have. But in general, it's just a deck builder. At the end of each turn, you're going to, or at the end of each round, you're going to be drawing cards that are going to affect the scene and different characters or different monsters in the scene, and then pick cards that you want to then add to your deck, or you can remove cards from your deck to make your deck stronger. And that's, again, the general deck building theme. But the artwork is taken pretty much, I'm pretty sure it comes directly from the game, so the artwork is outstanding. The components, they're nice. They're pretty good, chunky components. The cards are great. I would recommend sleeving the cards. I haven't sleeved them yet, but they have the nice God of War symbol on the back side of them. But you can see the attack symbol on it. That would be a close combat attack. This is a ranged attack right there. And then you have cards that you can eventually level up for. So this can be a block. You can use it as, +2 modifier, and you can use it as a ranged or melee combat. So this is the stuff that you'll put in to your deck to make it more powerful as you go on, because you're going to need it. Again, this is very, very short. In general, it's a very quick playing game. If you like God of War, you're probably gonna like this. My only real complaint is, so if you've played any, and I have it, here we go, I got it. So this is another game that is a video game adaptation, but it's also a deck builder. And if you've played this game, I consider, if I was to get somebody into board games that aren't necessarily a board game person, but definitely they like video games, these are two good options, but we're going to stick with God of War. God of War is very fast-paced, extremely simple and streamlined. There's some rules that you may have to look up, or just, kind of think logically how it would go in the game and go with that. But there are some foggy areas in the rule book. But this right here is one of the best gateway games I've ever played. if you like deck builders, because it's a great theme for somebody that hasn't played board games. It's extremely simple, and because if they've played God of War, it's just going to feel right when they play it. It's going to, it's slower. You're not just mashing buttons, but essentially that's what you're doing. You're just dealing damage, and you're dodging, and you're blocking. And then you're trying to, throw things or take down columns and throw rocks at things. That's what you're trying to do. And they adapt that extremely well. But on the backside of this, you have another, again, deck builder. This is another card game, Dark Souls, the card game, which is a video game as well. This one is a little bit more, and I feel like Dark Souls would have a lot more replayability, and I'll tell you why right now. So, Dark Souls, you kind of have the same layout, but the creatures in each area can change dramatically because you're just randomly selecting these characters out of a deck to build that battlefield. Now, on the other hand, God of War, you have these cards here, and these are what are making your battlefield, these cards. And once you defeat it or something, you'll flip it over, and then that's it. So let me see if I can find a good example of what. So this is kind of like a bigger boss, so it's probably a bad example. But say you beat this this card or this creature that was on this card, you'll flip it over. Most of them you'll flip over. And then there'll be something on the back of it that could give you extra health. It could heal you. It could give you extra cards. It could do anything. My problem with that is I like a little bit more replayability, as once you go in it, you kind of know where to go first, and I don't necessarily like that. I wish you had something underneath the cards that could say you beat a certain character or a certain monster, and then you took a card out from behind it that was randomized. I feel like I would like that a lot more. And I say that because there's not all that many different levels. I mean, there's definitely some replayability here. I would say you probably can get 5, maybe even 10 plays before you start getting really repetitive, and you're like, okay, we're just going to hammer this one guy. Once we hammer him, then we know everything else. We know this guy over here is going to drop loot. We know this guy's going to heal us over here. We know that. I don't like that so much. I like some randomness in the game. And I mean, they do a little bit of randomness. I do love my die and my dice, but they do have a little block die that you can, or that when you attack them, they'll roll and they can block some of your damage. So you do have to account for that. You'll maybe you send a little bit more damage in there just to account for, anywhere between 0 and 5 is what their shield could come up. But overall, again, I think the game is streamlined. It's probably my number one, as of right now, gateway game to get a non-board gamer but a video gamer into the hobby. But I would say that if this does come to a table and you're like, listen, this is good, just believe me, and we'll go through a few rounds, I think people catch on, and they catch on quickly. But I think that next step up is a game like Dark Souls, another game that is, pretty fast paced. It's more difficult than this game, and there's a lot more, where there's a market and there's a lot more going on. So I would 100% recommend this game for a gaming group that that they're into video games. But that is pretty much it. Again, I should have sprinkled some pictures in this video. Again, I'm a little rusty, but yeah, I just can't get enough of like this art. Oh, the rage tracker. So as you're going through, you have this rage tracker, and every character, so Mir has a rage tracker, Atreus has a rage tracker. So this isn't what you would see if you're playing solo, but this is. So you play as Kratos and you're going to increase your rage, which then will give you abilities. But so Kratos is the same on both sides. But you see, so you go from, if I was to play with somebody, you have Kratos here, or you have Atreus here. But if you play solo, you have these abilities that he can do, and you can spend these abilities, which once you use your rage, you're going to clear these out, and you can reuse them again in that battle. But you only clear them out after you fill up your rage and you use it. But again, overall, great game. I'm having a blast playing it by myself in the basement. I almost like it more as solo, because that's kind of how the video game plays. You have your support characters and you're playing that way. But whenever it comes to a board game, once you get people in there and you can start, planning some kind of strategy, it's always, a lot of fun to do that. But that is it. That is God of War, the card game. Hopefully this is the first of many videos to come. And please just like, subscribe. Let's get back into this. Until next time, guys, play more games.